Hello and welcome back to What Self-Care Looks Like. I'm Brittany Elliott. I'm a self-care and mom life coach. And before I dive into this episode, I want to talk to you about the mental load. The mental load is the cognitive labor that goes into raising children and managing the household. And oftentimes, moms carry a heavier mental load than their partners. And to help you assess, then sort your mental load, I developed the mental load audit. It's a printable document that allows you to rank the items in your load by their importance, and it highlights who in your household is carrying the weight of each task. And then the audit is packed with reflective prompts and action items to really help you manage your mental load because that is very important. The audit is available at backtiyouin5.com/resources, and I will drop the link to it in the show notes. Hey everybody, welcome back to What Self-Care Looks Like. I am Brittany Elliott. I'm your self-care and mom life coach, here to help you prioritize your needs and practice self-care so that you can reclaim joy in your motherhood experience. And I'm so excited because we have another guest episode today. We have Brie Ogletree here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And just to preface this, I really am being intentional with the guests that I've been bringing y'all. And one thing that's near and dear to me, as y'all know, is like our wellness points. So, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, emotional, intellectual, and what did I leave out? Social wellness. And physical wellness is the one that we like know about. It's about like maintaining your body for optimal functioning, but we still are not good at making space for it and really like understanding the importance of having a routine, especially as we age and as our hormones change. So Brie is here to help us through that. So Brie, tell us all a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Brittany, thank you again for having me. I am Brie Ogletree. I have been a fitness coach for 10 years. I specialize in helping women get stronger, improve their energy, and just feel better overall in their bodies. And I do that through strength training. So, strength training is my specialty. I help women get stronger and understand the importance of strength training, lifting weights to feel their best in their bodies. I've been a fitness coach both in person and online for 10 years. Moved my business online in 2020. But before that, I was doing personal training, and a lot of my personal training clients were women, and a lot of women came to me not knowing how to strength train or how to get stronger, or how to exercise. But I found that I loved helping women. We are the majority of the fitness industry, the clients that come to us, the customers that come to us. So I love what I do. I love helping women feel their best in their bodies, and yeah, that's what I do today online.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I wonder what happened back in 2020 that pushed that.
I wonder.
I wonder so many things. But I also think that the silver lining with that is you have so much more of a reach now, and we're just it's just more ways for us to like dive into healthier habits. And so you talked about just exercising overall and in general, and you've been doing this for a decade, which is a while, and thank you for staying committed to it.
Yeah.
I feel like so much has changed where there was at one point when it was like cardio, cardio, cardio. And then it's like everything is just like hit training, like the high intensity interval training. And now we are really seeing this focus into strength training because of its benefits to our overall health. So can you talk more about why strength training is so important?
Yeah. Yeah. So strength training, getting strong is important for many different reasons. I'm going to give you a few right now. Number one, first and foremost, and this is kind of what did it for me, was realizing the impact that it had on how you aged. So, how you got older, how you experience getting older. Um, Women who strength train or consistently strength train just have a better quality of life overall as they get older. So they're experiencing things like better energy, they're better able to get around and do the things that they need to do, well into their 70s, 80s, those higher, years. Bone mineral density, things like just your hormones, maintaining a better balanced hormonal environment in your body. Strength training has a huge role in that. Strength training is also great, like for right now. So not even just talking about aging, but how you feel in your body right now. So it's going to improve your energy. It's going to improve your hormones. If you're going through perimenopause or menopause, it's going to help with some of those symptoms like mood swings, belly fat, gaining weight in general, fatigue, those symptoms that you're experiencing. Um, it's going to help kind of diminish some of those symptoms. Cortisol is huge as well. That's the stress hormone, right? It's going to help
Mhm.
you better regulate cortisol. It's going to help you get better sleep at night. And then all these things together are just going to make you feel more vibrant, more healthy, more energized, right? So it does a whole slew of things for your health. I like to think of strength training as healthcare because when we take care of our muscle tissue, we are just more vibrant, more energized human beings overall, and that just allows us as women to go off and be a be an excellent mother, be there, be present, be able to have the energy to play with your kids, to run around on the playground if you have little ones, things like that. So it's huge. It's really important, and there's tons of benefits to it for sure.
Yeah. So can you walk us through starting in strength training? Because here's what I will tell you, Brie. I do not like it.
Okay.
So, no, like, to the point where I do it, and I do it
Yeah.
consistently, and while I'm doing it, I don't enjoy it. I will tell you I do it for all those benefits that you were talking about, and when I'm just, like, "Okay, I'm gonna go, this is the workout I'm gonna do," and I feel great, and I feel strong, I still am just like, it's not like, for example, with my husband, when we go to the gym together, like, that's, like, his therapy, like, he really loves it, he wants to see, like, how strong he is, and he loves to see how strong I am, and that, like, energizes him, and for me,
Yeah.
I feel depleted, and I also don't like, my muscles feeling sore, right? Like, that tenderness after, because 'cause I'm like, "Man, I'm too busy to not be able to lift my arm up here." So can you walk us through, like, what are some really safe ways to build up in your strength training, routine?
Yeah. So I love that you said all that because that's really relatable. A lot of women, a lot of people in general just don't like to exercise. And yeah, strength training can make you sore and it can be uncomfortable and it can be, not fun. But I think what's important is to figure out why you're doing it or just understand why you're doing it in the first place. And for a lot of us, that's just to be our healthiest, strongest, best selves for our kids, for our loved ones. Um, so if it's rooted in that and it's anchored in that, with which for you it sounds like it is, which is why you're doing it, right? You don't like showing up to do the workout, but you're doing it because you know all the great benefits that come along with it. So I think that's the first piece that we need to understand in order to be successful with it, in order to be consistent with it too, is just understanding that it's way bigger than going to the gym and lifting up some weights and putting them down, right? And I think when we start there, we can kind of look past some of that discomfort,
Mhm.
and understand, okay, this is so I live my best life, right? In terms of getting started, what I like to tell people that come to me, women that come to me, is that you can start literally anywhere. You can start in your living room when it comes to strength training. You can start with no equipment when it comes to strength training. So it doesn't have to be like signing up for a gym membership and going right to, the barbell rack, right? It could be
Yeah.
literally in your living room. You can start your strength training journey. Um, so that's relieving for a lot of women to hear as well. Home workouts, of course, in 2020 exploded. So there's lots of stuff to do online to get stronger. And then from there, just meeting yourself where you're at. Being honest about where your fitness level is at. If you need to modify exercises, there's modifications for literally every exercise that's out there. So just figuring out kind of where you're at, and if you need guidance on that, just getting the guidance that you need to figure out a good starting point when it comes to lifting.
Can you walk us through how your program supports us through that? Because I feel like that is what's huge to what you do, is that we're not alone when we have you, because I know that when I was younger, in my younger days, well before I was 30, I could just walk into a gym and find a trainer, and they would be, good enough. And
Yeah.
I didn't have all these because our body changes so much.
Yeah.
And like I didn't have more like restrictions on my body and things like that. And I didn't have a household that I was running and wasn't raising a child and all that. So I could take the time that I needed to fully recover. And, it was easier to go out and eat the things I needed to eat. And supplements didn't make me nauseous then. And now, like, it's hard for me to find supplements that sit well with my body, like, just so many things. So, how, with your program, are you there to really hold our hand through this strength training process?
Yeah, yeah. So my program is called Thrive, and it's for all women. And the way that I support my clients is I have a plethora of options, right? When it comes to the workout program itself. So whether you're training at home or you're training at the gym, you have the resources that you need to be successful. So that's one way that I support my clients. The other way is communication. So just making sure those lines of communication are open. Thrive is a membership based program, and there's different tiers to it. But if you join just like the standard, tier, it's one call a month. So I'm face to face with you, so you can ask me questions. And then there's also a private group as well. So if there's questions that come up throughout the program, throughout the month, I'm available to answer. Form feedback as well. I'm there for that too. A lot of women are intimidated when they first start strength training. They're like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Am I going to
Mhm.
get injured? So I just make sure that they know I'm available to answer, or provide that feedback for them to let them know, okay, you're doing this great. And then also here, let's adjust this a little bit. So I think those two things are huge. Then the third piece of the membership is exclusive content. So there's stuff in there related to nutrition, related to supplements, things like that, that can support them on their own time. What I love about the online membership model is there's no time dependency. So if you were to work with a personal trainer, you're meeting that person, whether online or in person, at a certain time on a certain day. With the membership model that I've created, it's on your own time. You have access to all the exercise videos, all of the information that you could possibly need, and then you also still have access to me as your coach, so you can ask your questions, and get the feedback and support that you need in your journey. So that's how I support my clients in my coaching practice.
And that's so wonderful. And even for me, I think when I am working out, like I do at home and we go to the gym, and typically how it started for us in my household, so you and our listeners as well, is back in 2020 around that same time I started getting serious about my self-care, right? And then that started, me getting back into doing workouts at home and like what can I do? And then I started just doing like body weight strength training. And now in my basement, there's like a stepper and a treadmill and like a bunch of different dumbbells. There's two benches. They're like, it's a whole thing. But
Yeah.
when I started, it was just like this room and
Yeah.
whatever I had, right? And my husband saw that I was working out. So one day he just started doing like some of my like walking stuff,
Mhm.
together. And it was just, he was like, hey, it wasn't enough for him, right? Because he's like, I'm trying to like do some weight. So he started going to the gym. And then
Mhm.
I started going to gym with him when our schedules matched up. And yesterday it was leg day, and we went, and this woman, and she was probably in her late 50s, maybe 60s, and we were walking. She came to me and she was like, "You had great form on the squat machine." And I was just like, oh. I mean,
Don't you love that? Those like
yeah,
random like compliments in the gym. I love
it's just
it.
so nice. So it's like with that too, it's like on one end, I'm like, it's so hard to just kind of show up and do it. But then it just means so much, like not
Yeah.
just for me or like you being in the gym. I feel like your videos, like when I'm watching you on Instagram, I'm like, man, if Brie can do that, like I want to try that. I want to see how that feels to do this exercise, because exposure to like what does this machine do, or how can I do that, or how many weights does this, and where should I feel this movement
Yeah.
is so important. So how do you see, like, when you start strength training and start a routine, how does that trickle down to everything else, to nutrition and how you eat and how you sleep? Like how does that build over time?
Yeah. It's baby steps, honestly. I do not think you should approach every single thing at once. So if you're
Mhm.
deciding, okay, I'm going to start an exercise or lifting practice, focus on that for a little bit before, trying to take a complete 180 on your nutrition or your sleep habits. I think we're more successful when we focus on one thing at a time, just for like maybe a month or so, just to get a routine down before we start adding other things. So I think that's a key piece to it. And then from there, just deciding, how much you can actually commit to it. So if it's strength training, what does that time commitment look like? Ideally, for women with strength training, anywhere between 2 to 4 times per week, if you're focused on a full body, workout, is perfect. But if you don't have that amount of time, and a lot of women don't, if you're a new mom or if you have a really demanding career, you may not be able to get to the gym or get a workout in. One time is better than zero, so anything is going to be better than nothing. So just realizing what the commitment, like, what your time commitment could be, is going to make you more successful and more consistent over the long run too.
Yeah, that I think that women, especially as like high achieving women, we're like, it has to be all or nothing. I have to be performing at my highest level, or what's the point? I think that with strength training specifically and anything that has to do with your physical wellness, just that mindset shift of like, one is better than nothing. Like anything is better than nothing. So even if it's, once every 7 days, that's something. And you can claim to be someone who works out because you
Yeah.
consistently are doing it. One of my friends, she's always like, I try to work out 4 days a week because that means I worked out for the majority of the week versus not. But where those 4 days fall, it doesn't matter. And I think that, and I would really like to know your perspective on this. Going in and having a lazy day, is that just as good as going in and having this day where you feel like you're thriving in the gym? Like, talk about that, the effort.
Yes, and I love talking about this. I talk about this on Instagram quite a bit. Like once a month I feel like I post about this. A lazy workout, like, do the lazy workout because at the end of the day, it's gonna reiterate and reinstill that habit that, okay, I work out XY, X amount of times each week. This is what I do. This is part of my routine. It's the consistency that we're building here. And there's going to be days where you feel great and days where you don't feel great. For me, I have PCOS, so energy is huge, especially the week before I get my period. I am so, like, my energy is so low compared to the rest of the month. So, and I still want to, I still want to move my body, but I'm like, it's not going to look like, and I'm fully expecting it not to look like how my workouts look like every other time throughout the month. And I know that. And that just took some, learning my body and learning, the cycles that my unique body goes through. But you can do that as well, no matter what you've got going on. So do the lazy workout to build the consistency and build the habit of working out and getting stronger and feeling your best. The lazy workouts absolutely count. um, I just like to look at it as, okay, my body needs a little bit of rest. I would still like to move my body, but I'm dropping weight, I'm dropping sets. I'm like, doing half the workout sometimes, maybe not even half the workout, depending on how I feel. And I think that's great, because that just proves that you have a great relationship with your body. You're tuned
Mhm.
into how you feel and the capacity that you're at. So in my opinion, half-assed, excuse me if I can't if I
Do
can't
it.
curse, yeah, half-assed workout is a workout. It's a completed and done workout. So do the lazy workout for sure.
I agree. And don't get discouraged too by what other people are able to do. And I love that you mentioned just understanding your body and taking time with it and asking yourself, how do I feel? Because there are times when my husband and I will go to the gym, and when I go to the gym, I only go with him. Like I never will go to the gym by myself. If I'm going to work out by myself, I work out at home. So
Mhm.
he knows what I can lift and what I can't, right? And so
Yeah.
when we go, and let's say it's like that week leading up to my period or during it or something like hormonally, he's like, why can't you squat that? Or like, why can't you lift that? And my body will just like, I cannot do it. It's like, I
Yeah.
got 3 for you and
Yeah.
I'm struggling. And he'll be like, why? Like, why is that? So can you talk about how like our hormones
Mhm.
directly impact like our strength training, our energy levels, and what we're really able to do?
Yeah. So there's different phases to, we go through a 28 to 30-day cycle. That week before your period, I know for me, and it's different for every woman too, so I don't
Mhm.
want to speak for every woman, but I know for me, the week before I actually have my period is my lowest energy week. Like I'm
Mhm.
just not productive. The workouts, aren't that great. I'm maybe doing half the workout. So I think being in tune with where you're at energy wise, your hormones, um, is really important again for consistency. And I feel my best energetically like at either the week that I'm getting my period or the few days after I start my period, right? That's when my energy levels are super high.
Mhm.
So it's the different phases of the menstrual cycle that are playing a role in what your hormones are doing, how you're feeling. Maybe you're more hungry before right before you get your period, which I've noticed. Like I tend to be a little bit more munchy the week before I get my period, right? And that's just your body looking for extra calories to support what your body's doing, what your hormones are doing, and that if you are if you do get pregnant, right, it's to support building or growing a human. So it is important work that your body's doing. So I think being in tune with that, and understanding that is is key again to being successful and being consistent with your exercise practice. Yeah. So for me, I can really only use myself as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the week before I get my period, low energy. The week of or a few days after, high energy. I feel great. I'm like lifting all the things and running around the gym like no problem. Week two is I'm probably leveled out. I feel myself feel great. Yeah, and then that week three back to that lower energy state, just trying to tune into, okay, sometimes it's skipping workouts for me because I need a nap. I don't need a workout. Just need to
Yeah.
take a nap. So yeah.
And can you talk a little more about the importance of rest and resting your body, even with the understanding that maybe you have a goal,
Yeah.
a strength training goal, and we also need to rest. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. Sleep and recovery is huge for whatever fitness goal that you have. So if it's to put on muscle, if it's to lose weight, your body needs that recovery period. And I think you alluded to this in the beginning, in like the late 1990s, early 2000s. We were in this like exercise era of like hit training, go hard or go home, do all the cardio, do all the things, and forget about rest. Who needs to rest, right? But rest is the portion of the whole equation where you're building muscle, right? Which is we talked about the benefits of building muscle and getting stronger as you get older, and just how you feel overall. That process doesn't happen in the gym. That actually happens when you're resting.
Mm,
So if we're not getting adequate sleep, if we're not putting proper nutrition in our body, um, if we're not taking care of our stress or managing our stress the best way we can, then that can actually affect how the results that you get when it comes to strength training. So that's a huge piece to it. And the way I like to approach this, in my program is we do 3 days per week, full body. So you're hitting your all muscle groups 3 times throughout the week, which is great. That's a great amount of stimulus. The rest of the time, between workouts, I really emphasize resting. So if you're sore, maybe it's just going on a walk, doing some light stretching, but nothing, no like intense cardio, things like that. Um, yeah, just really prioritizing rest. Um, yeah, it's key to it, and it helps, again, helps regulate your hormones, right? It's going to help you just feel better overall. It really is. And it's not emphasized enough, which is, I feel like we're moving in that direction. Like, just like with strength training, we are starting to emphasize the importance of rest, the importance of, managing our stress and things like that. But it is key to getting the results that you want to get. Um, yeah, there's you need to rest. That's all I gotta say.
You gotta rest. And I do enjoy that you talked about you can rest from the weight training and still, take a walk or do some other type of exercise, because I think movement in general is very important. Like sometimes I just need to move my body in some way, but I don't have the strength or my muscles are too tender to actually
Mhm.
lift something. And I know it's another mindset thing that it's like people feel like, well, this doesn't count. Because now there's like people online saying like walking doesn't count. Like, come on. Walking has always counted. So even
Yeah.
if you can just do that, and I know for me, I work in the office full time. So like I'm sitting most of the time, and now I have a standing desk and I take advantage of that. But like sometimes it's not enough. Like I just need to get out and walk. So I love that you mentioned that. What's your stance on stretching and the importance of that type of movement?
Yeah, I think stretching is really important. We do more of like dynamic stretching in the beginning of our workouts. I really emphasize that just because it's better for getting you in the proper positions when it comes to strength training, just like warming up your muscles a little bit. So I prefer more dynamic stretching before you get into a workout. After you're done working out, though, that some of that static stretching where you're like holding a position is great because your muscles are warmed up. They're more elongated. You're just going to get a better benefit out of dynamic stretch, or sorry, static stretching. Um, if you're sore, stretching can be great, but what I will say is movement first. So like a walk, like I just said, is probably best just to warm up your muscles. It doesn't have to be walking. It could be, any type of activity. It could be a yoga flow. It could be biking, things like that. But getting a little bit of movement in first is just going to make the static stretching a little bit more effective, and it's probably going to feel a little bit better too because you're not going into it super cold. Your muscles are warmed up a little bit. But yeah, I am a huge proponent for both dynamic and static stretching. Yeah, dynamic at the beginning of the workout where you're moving through a range of motion to warm up your muscles, and then the static where you're holding a position at the end. Yeah.
Perfect. I definitely skimp on both.
Okay.
Which is not, it's not good. It's not good. And I saw like a good like warm up
Hmm.
stretching routine that I was like, "Oh, I should probably try that." However, I'm not there yet, right? And I think that's, when you were mentioning like focus on one thing at a time. Because I
Hmm.
think once you do something and you're building a routine and you prove to yourself, "Hey, I can do this," and it's really not a strain, then you're like, "Oh, what else could I do?" Like now you're just
Yeah.
like feeling that challenge, right?
Yeah.
I want to know how you feel about, or what your relationship is with the scale, and how we look at our weight as far as pounds, and
Hmm.
how we should be measuring our results.
Yeah. Um, I have a very complex relationship with the scale, as I can imagine a lot of women do. Recently, this is how I feel about it. It is one data point that you have, right? It's not going to tell you how hard you did your workout. It's not going to tell you what your energy levels look like. It's not going to tell you how your clothes fit. It's not going to tell you how you feel overall. So, if you have a goal of weight loss, yeah, it's probably important to measure where you're starting and kind of how you're progressing, but it's not the end all be all. So we need to keep that at the forefront, right? There's so many other health and, well-being markers that you can look at over the scale or in addition to the scale. So and your weight is going to fluctuate from day to day, from time to time. So depending on, you know what kind of weekend you had, or what your period, for example. So where you're at in your cycle, your weight's going to fluctuate quite a bit, and that can throw a lot of women off. So well, I'm not saying don't look at it, because again, if you have a weight loss goal and you are looking to drop some body weight, you're going to want to measure that, but you're also going to want to look at some of those other health markers as well. So that's what I have to say about that. In terms of best practices when it comes to the scale, the best time to do it is probably in the morning before or after you use the bathroom, right?
Mhm.
Before you eat anything, because that's probably going to be like the truest indicator of where you're at. And then again, scales in terms of accuracy are going to fluctuate too. But as long as you're using the same scale, same time, preferably right after you use the bathroom in the morning. And then I would take two measurements. So one at the beginning of the week and one at the end of the week. So you have 2 pointers, like 2 data points each week,
Okay.
that you can look at. So then you can start to see trends, which way you're trending. Am I trending up? Am I trending down? Once you get like a few weeks of data, that you've collected. So that's the best way I would approach it. If you're not worried about your body weight, right, that you could care less what you weigh, then don't weigh yourself. If it's gonna throw you in a tizzy of like, oh, I'm gaining weight, or I'm this weight. Um, yeah, that's where I'm at right now with that, and that's how I approach it myself. Right. If I'm not worried about how I weigh, I don't weigh
Mhm.
myself. Like, it's been a while, so yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because anytime someone comes to me and they say, I want to lose weight, I always say, why?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? And I think that there's a like weight a goal of weight loss is important for certain people. Like, it serves a purpose for certain people.
Yeah.
And then I think for other people it just doesn't. And so I think it comes down to, well, how do you want to feel?
Right.
What is weight going to do? Because as we get older, and I'm just going to be real with you,
Mm-hmm.
for me, if I'm 10 pounds less than I am or 10 pounds more, I can still fit the same clothes because my weight distribution is different. So
Mm-hmm.
me caring about weight, it's not going to matter because it's not really impacting my closet. It's not, and maybe like I won't
Yeah.
wear jeans because, it's a little bit tighter here, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So then it's like a difference if you're like, I'm dropping weight because I'm trying to get in this size and all these things, and it's these health indicators. But I think I found that there's a lot of us, and maybe it's a certain generation of us, maybe like in this certain age range, where we still are so focused on our weight. And I think a lot of it comes from how our bodies change through motherhood, because I will tell you that I was a weight, I'll just throw out a number. I was like 130 pounds. I'm 5 feet tall, y'all, and I was 130 pounds, which sounds like crazy, right, for a small person, probably when I graduated from high school.
Okay.
My body still like looked the same. Maybe I was wearing a size 5 or 7, whatever that meant back then. But
Mm-hmm.
my body just looked like a solid athletic build, or whatever they call it, body.
Yeah.
Um, when I was pregnant, I probably weighed like 160 something pounds. And now I fluctuate between 140 and 145. I've tried to like get to 130 something. My body doesn't care. My body won't do it. Won't do it. But like, I still can wear a 6 or a 4, and I'm still in that range. And I still be like, man, I know over there she got a BBL, and my body looks just like that for free. So it's like, what are you kind of like trying to get? But I think a lot of us are like, through motherhood at times, like we've lost so much of ourselves,
Mm.
and we're trying to hold on to like something like the weight, or like get our body back.
Yeah.
But the bounce back, I think, is it's like a fallacy. So since you are pre and postnatal certified, can you talk about um pursuing that like in a healthy way, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up some really good points. And I will preface this by saying I'm not a mother. I have a niece and a nephew, and I am a fur mother though, so I have a dog. Um, so from a firsthand standpoint, have not been through this, but I can understand how that could possibly feel to feel like, okay, I was at this spot before I got pregnant, and now I'm at this spot. How do I get back to that spot, right?
Hmm.
And like you said, you give so much to motherhood. You give, your energy, your love. You give all the things to this beautiful new human, which is just incredible to watch, from a third party standpoint. Um, what I can say about that is if that's what you feel like is going to make you feel like more you, then I'm all for it. Like, I'm going to support you through it. Like, if you feel like if I get back to this, then I'm going to feel like myself again. Maybe that's what you need in, where you're currently at. But there may be other ways to, feel more like yourself again than just this number, right?
Hmm.
Maybe you can think about how you felt energetically. Maybe you can feel a bit, or think about how you felt athletic wise. Maybe you used to be able to do a push up and now currently you can't do a push up. Is that something that we could work towards, right? Sometimes letting the scale go, it can ultimately get us to that point, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not so focused on it. So if you're focused more on like what your body is capable of versus what you weigh, can sometimes just push you towards that goal because we're not so hyper focused on the number, if that makes sense. um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think having your support along that journey helps as well
yeah,
because a lot of times, especially with new mothers, we don't know what we are just trying to get back to ourselves. And
yeah,
like, that's why I started my business to help people do that.
yeah,
And trying to articulate what we're missing is hard. So we're like, well, what was it then? And it's easy to focus on the number on the scale. But I
yeah.
love that you say, well, what else about that was
Hmm.
important to you and how important
Absolutely.
is your energy to you? And um, I love that you're certified, especially in the postnatal part of it, because I find that depending on how you gave birth, depending on how your pregnancy was, like I had a C-section and there
Yeah.
are just parts of my body, abdomen, core area that are just traumatized from that experience. And there are just
Mhm.
movements that I just cannot do. There are places like ways that I can't even bend. And then when it's cold or rainy and snowing, like I can just feel it. And to have discomfort in like your reproductive system area that you've lived with your whole life and just now you're like, why can't I do this? Why don't my abs want to work? And you
Mhm.
have to just redevelop those muscles. But I feel like a male trainer doesn't understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like there are just some not it's not just do this. It's like
Right.
I need to be able to come to you and say, hey, like right underneath my pelvis, like right under here, like touch it on you. Like let me just this part.
Hmm.
It feels weird when I'm doing this because you might say, well, your form looks good, but there's something going on. And I say, oh, that something here isn't working. And now you can say, okay, well, let's try this modification and be very specific.
Yes.
And that's what you do, right? In your form feedback and giving like those
Yeah.
modification recommendations.
Yeah, yeah. So usually before I work with a client, I'm usually aware of kind of where they're at, some of the things that they're dealing with. So I start there. So if I'm working with you one on one, I'm like, hey, like if you had kids, if you had any issues, and describe them to me. Are there any movements that feel uncomfortable or or painful even? So
Mhm.
I start there before we even get into doing any type of activity, because that is going to inform your workouts, and we're going to have to modify or adjust things. It's not about like what you can't do, but it's like, let's make this work for your body, right? We need
Yeah.
to find solutions for your specific circumstance for your body, and that's key. And you're right, there's a lot of male trainers out there that probably don't take the time to understand what a woman is going through after they give birth, but there are a lot of male trainers who do. So if
Mhm.
you are planning on working with someone in person, it's important to find those people. Ask those questions before you start working with a trainer. Hey, have you worked with postnatal women before? I'm dealing with I'm dealing with some lower body discomfort, some, pelvic discomfort as a result of my pregnancy. I just had a C-section. Like things like that are really important to know as a trainer before you get thrown into a workout plan. So, yeah, if they're not asking those questions, that's a red flag, number
Yeah.
one. So yeah, if they don't ask those questions up front, then I would, raise my eyebrow a little bit. But then ask the questions. Hey, what's your experience, in this area?
Yeah, don't just like buy what everybody is selling. Like I trust Brie because I've stalked her online for like a year. And, I just believe in what you do and you take it very seriously and it's important to you. And I like that you're like aging with us because now I don't feel as comfortable with doing things with like 20-year-olds that it's just like you just not that they're not good. It's just
No,
I'm beyond that.
I
Does that
get what
make
you're trying
sense?
to say. And I'm like, I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to look at a 20-year-old's, fitness person online because that's not where I'm at anymore. I'm in my 30s. I'm in my damn near mid 30s. I just turned 34. Like, that's not me. So I want to follow women who are in that space, who are in that, mindset. It's just a
Mhm.
different, we're going through different things. For me specifically, PCOS is huge. I wasn't diagnosed with PCOS until my late 20s.
Oh,
So I
wow.
look, yeah, I was late to the game. So yeah, I look for people who look like me, and I think that's important. Yeah, and that's why I continue to do it because again, I'm not that young, spunky trainer anymore. I used to be, but that's not me anymore, right? I have to adjust to my energy levels, what my PCOS is doing that month. Like, I have so
Mhm.
many things. And then women as well. Motherhood is huge. That's a huge part of your life. So we have to be able to find people that are who understand that and understand that we need to adjust things. It's not just go 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 go. No, we need to adjust what we're doing with the you know the area of life or the season of life that we're in.
Yeah. And people who keep it real because I think,
Yeah.
Brie, you are very authentic. And like, I feel like if I came to you and I sent you a picture of a body type that was not mine, like with this goal, like, I want this, you'd be like, girl, that is not even your body type because sometimes we get these unrealistic goals, right? We're like, I want my body to look like this. And you're like, that's not what your frame is for. We can
Mhm.
get like that type of strength, but your body's going to look like this. And that's something that we have to understand. And like me, not just like fangirling over you, but I just love your body type. Like, I just love
Thank
the
you.
look of your body. I love how strong it looks. I love how lean it looks. I love how just like it still has a little something something, like I just like it, it's just when I look at you, I'm like, that is something that I feel like my workouts need to be like this because I feel like my body is more in line with this and that your approach to fitness is more aligned with my approach to life overall. And maybe that's just me getting older. That's more important to me than other things too.
Yeah. Um, Thank you. That's a lovely compliment. But yeah, you're right. What I have to say about that is that we're all different, right? Our bodies are all different. So how I look is not going to be how you look, and that's just the
Mhm.
truth, right? But also, how I look is a result of how I train too. Yes, there's genetics involved, of course, but you can get similar results for your body type, and how you're built. Um, if you do train a certain way, yes. But yeah, you're right. I will. If you were to send me a photo, I would be 100% honest, and let you know. Okay, this is what we can do, but this is these are A and B, apple and oranges. So we need to, yeah, be a little bit more realistic when it comes to what we can accomplish. But yeah.
Yeah. And understanding, I think, for us that are parents too. And even if you're not a parent, like your auntie and all these things, we all have kids that are looking up to us and how we approach everything in our life. And I feel like for me, and I'm 36, by the way, um, the way that fitness and health was approached when I was like my daughter's age, like when I was 6, even through high school, was just not a healthy way to pursue an active lifestyle. It was very much focused on the scale and let me get the smallest that I can and all that stuff. And I feel like some of that had been programmed into me on how I approach my fitness. And
Yeah.
I'm happy that my daughter won't have that. Like, I
Yeah.
speak about even my relationship with food. I speak about food differently. I speak about the scale differently and all of that. And I feel like you are cognizant of that. And when you're working with moms, you understand that, like, I may not just be working out for me, I'm working out for raising the people who rely on me too. And that makes it even more important than just this body, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. Um, I do what I do as a result of some of the things you just described. I went through the same experience. When I got into fitness, it was all about getting skinny, losing as much weight as you could, um, burning as many calories as you can in a session, right? So my struggles are, that's what brought me to this point. I had to go through, which a lot of women experience. I went far as to study exercise science because I was trying to figure out my body and what was quote unquote wrong with my body and why I couldn't lose the weight, why I couldn't be, smaller. And what I learned through all of that is I was never meant to be this tiny little person, right? I've always been a, athletic built person, but I was fighting it for so long. I was fighting my genetics for so long. And when I finally let that go and I found strength training, is when I felt the most empowered in my body because I realized, hey, like I'm strong. Like I could take these muscles and throw some weight around. Like that's pretty cool. So just leaning into who you are and leaning into, getting strong just in general is what really flipped that switch for me and not being focused so much on how much I weigh, what the scale is saying, what my pant size is. Just being focused on what my body is capable of, which is so empowering, and any woman is capable of doing that, right? So and it's so much more than this is and that's what we've been talking about this whole time. It's so much more than this. It's more than your body. It's raising wonderful humans. It's having a
Mhm.
fulfilled life, living well. We only get one life. This is what it's about. So if you can look past the scale and past what your body actually is and more so what it's capable of doing, you're unstoppable from there, which is why I do what I do.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much. I know that you want to help more of us age powerfully. So tell our listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, I have a podcast as well if you want to start there. I plan to start posting more episodes. I just moved this year, guys, so I've been kind of all over the place. I made a cross country move, but I plan to start posting very soon. But there's 85 episodes on there right now. It's called the Intuitive Strength Podcast. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just my handle, or my name is my handle at Brie Ogletree.
Thanks, Brie. I appreciate you. And to our listeners, I will talk to y'all all very soon. Make sure you listen to this again, take notes, and connect with Brie because if nothing else, if all you do is just watch her on her page for the next 6 months, that's still something because sometimes it takes a while for us to build up the courage to do it. But just set your intentions on it and you'll get everything that you're wanting. So until next time, talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to What Self Care Looks Like. Again, I am Brittany Elliott, a self care and mom life management coach. I help working moms change their approach to motherhood so they can feel vibrant, empowered, and fulfilled in their motherhood journey. My group coaching program, Reconnect, is built around the 5 wellness pillars that will help you feel the most whole as you balance your motherhood role with your personal needs. So be sure to check in with yourself using the free wellness quiz at backtoyouin5.com/quiz.